Hi, this is Emily Saliers from Indigo Girls, and you're listening to Rainbow Country.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, a spotlight on Canadian disco queen Claudja Barry. From Boogie Woogie Dancing Shoes, the disco hit that danced around the world, to her appearance in the new Canadian documentary, Revival 69, the concert that rocked the world. Plus, actor and recording artist Aidan Moreno joins me to talk about his role on season 16 of Heartland, Canada's longest-running one-hour family drama on CBC, as well as on Netflix. All that and more in episode 338, so stay tuned. The Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hello, my name is Conchita.
And I'm Barbecue.
And my name is Hardcora. And we are the Beat Girls.
You're listening to
Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Well, hello and welcome to a brand new journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT FM in Toronto and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada and Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a number one LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's Gay and Lesbian chart, as well as being recognized as Canada's number 2 LGBT podcast on feedspot.com. So today, Revival 69, the concert that rocked the world. So in 1969, there were 3 music festivals that basically changed the world. And the second most important event in rock and roll history was a one-day music festival held at Toronto's Varsity Stadium. That concert was called the Toronto Rock and Roll Revival, the first pop festival in Canada. 28 groups, over 200 performers, artists like Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Bo Diddley, The Doors, Alice Cooper, John Lennon, with the Plastic Ono Band, just to name a few. And in the audience of that concert, an up-and-coming artist, Claudja Barry. She joins me to talk about that pivotal concert experience, her own music career, as well as being one of the founding members of Boney M. Plus, queer actor and recording artist Aidan Moreno joins me to talk about his groundbreaking role on Canada's longest-running one-hour family drama on CBC. That would be Heartland. A family drama that follows sisters Amy and Lou Fleming, their grandfather Jack Bartlett and Ty Borden, through the highs and lows of life at their horse ranch in the fictional town of Hudson, Alberta. By the way, Heartland became the 5th most streamed series globally in 2021, and that's according to Nielsen. Aidan's going to fill us in on his role as Rick Adler, his music, and more. And in hour 2 of Rainbow Country, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house. And on this episode, I'm featuring some Claudja Barry, some Aidan Moreno, and more. all that lies ahead as we start Journey 338 through Rainbow Country. And our first stop is the Rainbow Country Bookstore. And on this episode, award-winning writer and author Michael Sadowski reads from his memoir, Men I've Never Been, a book that deals with manhood, sexuality, conformity. By the way, Men I've Never Been is available wherever you get your favorite books. And on Amazon.ca, it has a rating of 4.7 out of 5.
I didn't have a crush on Mr. Farello, my 6th grade teacher, but I really wanted him to like me. And Kevin Rice swooped in on this fact like a bird of prey from day one. A short, scrawny kid with pale skin and a mop of dark brown hair, Kevin was one of the least threatening-looking boys in my class. If he were a dog, he'd have been the runt of the litter. But what Kevin lacked in physical stature, he made up for in intensity of hatred, all of it apparently directed toward me. "Oh, Mr. Farello, I know," Kevin mimicked my voice and hand gestures as I answered a question on the first day of school. Then, under his breath, in a sneer I would recognize over the telephone to this day, one more word: faggot. I'd certainly been called names before, and I'd heard the F word muttered by boys in elementary school under circumstances that often made me wonder if it had to do with me. But Kevin's delivery was different. It was bile in it, something primal, diseased, even sexual. It turned me inside out, brought my faggot guts to the surface for all to see. And it was constant, 20, 30, maybe 40 times a day. Compared to Kevin, the boys in elementary school had been mere amateurs. Even if I kept my hand down to avoid Kevin's glare, he found ways to assault my not even formed yet sexuality every day, every hour. We got a lot of group work in Mr. Farello's class, which meant a lot of moving around the room and a lot of opportunities for Kevin to sidle up next to me. "You fag, you fucking faggot, you queer, you're a fucking queer faggot." Pretty soon it didn't matter what words Kevin used or what order he put them in. He had me where he wanted me. Now I was much more than the sissy I'd walked into the room determined not to be. I was the class faggot.
Hi, everybody. This is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, Claudja Berry. It's like 2:30 Toronto time. Is it on a Thursday? Is it like Friday for you, Claudja Berry?
Yeah, it's Friday for me in Melbourne, Australia.
Crazy. So are you good to talk?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. I'm here and I'm looking forward to speaking with you.
Okay, so here we go.
I wanted the Beatles thing to end. I felt as though I couldn't breathe if it went on any longer. We got this phone call that there was a rock and roll revival show, and that Chuck was going to be there, and Jerry Lee was going to be there, and the great rockers were still living. The Doors were top of the bill.
There were a lot of historic things happened that night.
The ninth wonder of the world, Alice Cooper!
A lot of tension going on.
The excitement was amazing.
This was far too much ahead of its time. The music was important. You could see they were digging it.
If you watch the old guys, when they hit that stage, they brought it like it's the last show you're ever going to do.
The guys that originated everything, the heroes.
A week before the show, tickets were not selling. All of a sudden, the show's going to be canceled.
Is John Brower calling?
And we would like to invite John and Yoko to be the MCs.
Sounds about good, this Canadian thing.
If John Lennon doesn't show up, I am ruined.
Pulled up with our bikes up front of the airport. Big long line of bikes. We've escorted John Lennon in.
People were going crazy.
I had not experienced something like that before.
The combination of people on the stage is, without question, historic.
It was almost a non-event until all of a sudden it was the biggest thing in the world.
Living desire today will never have a desire.
Claudja Berry, hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. It's so great to talk to you. I've heard your program often, and I'm very pleased to be a part of it today. Thank you.
I am such a fan, I have to say. I play your music all the time on Rainbow Country. Thank you for being here, to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that. But especially to talk about a new Canadian documentary that's out now, Revival 69, the concert that rocked the world, a 1969 music festival held here in Toronto at Varsity Stadium, right in the heart of the downtown core of Toronto. The lineup included the likes of Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Bo Diddley, The Doors, Alice Cooper, John Lennon with the Plastic Ono Band, just to name a few. Claudja Berry, you were there in person, in the audience. There is footage of you in this documentary from back in the day, as well as a current interview with you. You were there originally with your brother, I believe. First of all, let's start here. Claudja Berry, let's start here. How did you first hear about this music festival originally?
Well, it was well publicized in Toronto. It was a huge thing. And I think my older brother decided that he wanted to go and see these people. Of course, I had heard about Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis and all these people because that was the music that was being played on the radio in Toronto. And, I wasn't supposed to go out, but I snuck out with my brother and we went to Varsity Stadium and had this unbelievable thing happened to me. At least I know that as I looked at some of the footage that was taped, that was filmed by Pennebaker, I just said, oh my God, I had no idea that I was going to be, having such a great time, because as far as my mother was concerned, I was supposed to be at home doing homework,
Why did you want to go originally?
Well, I think it was, first of all, it was probably because my brother asked me to go if I wanted to go, because he had never asked me to do anything like that before. And I was a little bit younger than him, much younger actually. And he said, well, look, it'll be the first time you'll be able to go to a concert like that. And I'm sure, he said, we'll probably never see it again. So let's go. And, I think we were one of, the two of us was probably, there was probably another 2 or 3 people of color in the audience. And it was it was an amazing time. I wanted to go because I thought, it's something different. I've heard Chuck Berry. I had heard Little Richard, and I really wanted to go and see these people.
So this documentary, talk to me about your involvement in this documentary and how you got involved with Revival 69, this documentary.
Well, I'm on Facebook. So I got this, text, a message from somebody. He said, we think this is you, Claudja Berry. And I mean, it's really kind of scary when you think about it, because how do you recognize this face without some kind of help? I know there's face recognition apps or something like that that you can use to see people or recognize people. So anyway, I got this message and I decided, oh, that's interesting. I thought about it. You can never be too careful. So I thought, is this for real? Is this serious? They explained, yes, they're doing this documentary, and would you like to do an interview? Give us your thoughts about how it was being there. And I said, after a good few weeks of thinking about it, I said, sure. Because, I mean, I had nothing to lose and I had nothing to hide. So I said, yeah, might be something interesting.
Did you end up staying for the full concert?
I did. Yes, I did. And I really got in trouble when I got home late that evening, late that night, actually. But I stayed until I saw John Lennon. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we were about to leave in the afternoon when late afternoon, and when we saw this limo drive up and everybody was going, oh, it's Lennon. And I thought, all right, yeah, we got to stay now, no matter what happens when we get home.
Yeah.
I wanted to stay.
A Beatle.
Yeah.
Crazy.
The Beatles were, one of the Beatles was there, and I
and you were there.
Pretty historic. And
yeah.
Well, actually, I didn't really think it was pretty historic. I was never a crazed fan of anybody, but until that day when I saw Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis and Chuck Berry, I said, no, there's something happening with this. It's a good feeling. It gave me a good feeling.
I believe it was Little Richard's performance that made you realize that you needed to be on stage. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know if it was an obvious sort of impact, the emotional impact of seeing this really amazing performer. And I really didn't understand what was happening. I knew he was great. I knew Chuck Berry was great. I knew everybody on that show was great. I thought Alice Cooper was quite mad because I'd never seen anything like that before. So that whole concert, as you put everything together, and I saw John Lennon, Yoko Ono doing something so absolutely different from anything that was ever done before, as far as I was concerned. I just thought, yeah, show business is wonderful, and it gives you an outlet for whatever it is you've got in you.
Were you an aspiring singer, songwriter at the time? Were you looking to get into show business at the time that you saw this concert?
Well, yeah, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at that time. I was still modeling, and I was on a little, every so often I was on little shows. But I after seeing Little Richard do his thing, and the look and the excitement that he brought as he came on stage, there was this kind of, the whole thing shifted from being a great concert to an amazing concert, because he just commanded. He said, "Come on, I'm here." His presence said, he didn't. He just said, "I'm here, and I'm gonna shake you up today, and you're gonna know I was here. You're not gonna forget me." And I think that's the feeling I had after seeing the whole day was something that it was very organic. It was very authentic. Everybody who performed, it was real. It wasn't. They weren't making it up. Whatever they played, whatever they sang, it was really authentic. And that made me realize that you can be creative, and there is an outlet for you. And Little Richard said, "Go for it." As I look back on it, I just realized that it was there that I realized that I wanted to do music.
So that was 1969. In the 1970s, I believe you moved to Europe, where you ended up doing music theater in London, in Germany. But here's what I'm interested in finding out is yourself and Donna Summer, the two of you were both women singers doing music theater in Germany. And I'm interested to know if your paths ever crossed during that time.
Yes, absolutely. I met Donna a number of times. You know, she got the drop on getting her music out very quickly, and I was still doing theater. We met a number of times, and she also, I remember one particular place we were doing appearances. She was in the huge concert hall, and I was in a club that had maybe 800-900 people in Manchester, England. And she was so charming and so wonderful as a performer. I've always respected her. I always thought she was just somebody that had courage, because up until then, dance music, disco music was just beginning. You know, it was just and she busted the door open with "Love to Love You, Baby," and just had a whole bunch of us go through with her. You know, so I will always be grateful that she was one of the persons who, first of all, was a really nice human being. She was a beautiful person, inside and outside, and she was amazingly talented. And her music lives today in a big, big way. And we, as those of us who sort of came after her, should always be grateful that she was the one who set the standard.
Well said. Well said. Something else that the two of you, yourself and Donna, share in common is your early records were recorded in Germany. So talk to me about why you think Europe, Germany in particular in the 70s, really wanted your sound, really wanted you. Why do you think that was, Claudja?
Well, I can't speak on Donna's, reasonings or why, but I went to Europe to study, first of all, to study classical music. Living at home with my parents, we listened my mom loved operetta. She loved the magic flute. She loved anything from Mozart that was an operetta. She loved that kind of sound. She loved the evergreens of Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra. And one of her huge favorites was Barbra Streisand, when Streisand hit. And I always heard really great singers at home. I used to be really impressed with how people were able to vocalize with such dexterity, especially the opera singers. So I went to Europe to study classical music. I first went to England, and then I went to Vienna to really study at the feet of one or two of the great coaches and voice teachers. But it was in Berlin, when I went to Berlin to do Othello, they had a version of Othello, a musical called Catch My Soul. That's how the whole thing blew up for me. I got offers. I started a group called Boney M. I was the founding member of that group. And so I think Germany was a place, it was the epicenter for disco music, dance music in Europe at the time. And in essence, the pioneers of that sound, Jürgen Kordeletsch, Giorgio Moroder, there were tons of people who were in Munich at the time who were classically trained, but were able to get that disco sound perfectly. And I think that because of the kind of sound that we were getting, Germany and Europe loved that sound.
Boney M is Rasputin. Isn't that like one of their big hits?
That's one of their big hits. I wasn't on that particular one, but
you're one of the founding members of Boney M?
I was one of the founding members of Boney M. Right I was there until we did with Daddy Cool. Daddy Cool was the hit that I was a part of, but I got many offers after I was in Catch My Soul at the Theater des Westens. I got a number of offers to have a solo career. So I realized very early on with Boney M that I was not really a let's say a group singer, so to speak. I was very specific with my wishes, and my sound was very specific. I mean, today you'll hear a Claudja Barry record, and you cannot mistake that voice for who I am, you know. And with that voice, I've got to say, I got very lucky with my career in Canada. I was nominated 9 times for a Juno Award. Of course, the disco sound was not, was not really highly
respected.
I accepted because I lost 9 times to I lost 8 times to.
You won, girl.
Yeah, and Murray and I were always in the same categories, but I was very grateful that I was given the great opportunities in Canada to sing for the Prime Minister Trudeau, to be there in the audience with him to open the Junos, to be the first Black woman to do that, and to be the first to have a top 3 Billboard pop record with Boogie Woogie Dancing Shoes.
Yes.
So I will always be wonderfully grateful to my fans in Canada and first of all to the gay community, because I've got to tell you that in the world, that's my base. That's my folks who, without their support and their love and all of this stuff happened because, gay community loved the sound. They love dance music. They love disco.
We've got good taste.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a big part of my life and I at every time I always thanked and I always was grateful to the gay community. So and I thank you, Mark. I just can't tell you how grateful I was to get to speak to you on your show, because you do reach a huge part of the population, music lovers in Canada.
Well, thank you. Let's talk more about you and your music. You've had a number of hits, a number of Canadian hits, international hits, Billboard Hot 100 hits. You're a Juno winner. Boogie Woogie Dancing Shoes, the track, the song that danced around the world. Talk to me about how this song, this classic disco song now, iconic, how did the song come to you? How did the song come about?
Well, the song came about because, we, at the time, disco music was the bomb. It was big. It was happening. And, Jürgen Kordelech, who is a visionary, I can't say enough nice things about him. He really said, we're going to do something. Sweet Dynamite was the breakout hit. It was just such a wonderful song. But it wasn't that kind of catchy, poppy song that grandmothers would love, parents would love, and children would love. It was and then a whole other area opened up when it was interpreted in a certain kind of way for my gay friends. They loved the idea of dressing up on Saturday night and be that wonderful queen that we all are. So it came about that we put it together with Christian Schulze, Mats Björklund, a number of classically trained musicians helped us, Jürgen and I, to sit down and write the song. So, and in essence, it was a song that made sense to me because it was an easy song to sing. And it was an easy song to remember. Boogie, oogie, 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 dancing shoes. Everybody can sing that. It's not a hard song to it's a very easy song to remember. First of all, the words, and it's a great song to dance to.
So speaking about successes, more recently, one of your tracks, Love for the Sake of Love, has been sampled and becoming hits for the likes of Da Brat. Another one of your songs, I Will Stand, reached number 4 on the Billboard Club charts in 2015. I believe you released your 8th album entitled Come On, Stand Up. So here's the question for you, Claudja Berry. Back in '69, when you saw that concert with Little Richard and with Jerry Lee Lewis and with John Lennon and Yoko Ono in a looks like a sheet or something, when you were there in the audience looking at that, do you think that somewhere in your mind, subconsciously, you soaked that all in and that helped to influence your music career in some way? Maybe how to work an audience? Do you think that moment, that being at that concert, was a pivotal moment for you?
It definitely was. I mean, the concert in itself, Little Richard individually, Chuck Berry individually, sort of just said, it just gave me that feeling that you have to, first of all, you've got to learn the craft. You've got to go through the steps. You don't arrive at the top immediately. You have to work and work and work until you get there. And that working means you learn how to get an audience going. You learn how to hold an audience, how to get them to the point where they walk away saying, my God, that was amazing, or that was fabulous, or I really enjoyed that. So Little Richard did that to me on that day. I just felt motivated. I felt something happen to me that said, yeah, you need to learn how to do that. And learning how to do it comes with doing it, just constantly going everywhere, working with different audiences, and just keep trying, keep moving, keep growing, which is what I think I've been trying to do all these years. I mean, I don't really like compromising, and I really compromise very little. It's either how I want to do it and the way I should do it, that I can actually enjoy doing it and be myself. It has to be organic when I'm performing. I get distracted very easily when the music isn't right, or when when I see some people in the audience not paying attention. That means I'm not doing my job properly.
Did you ever get to meet any of those artists that you saw in '69?
Well, I eventually got to meet, I met Chuck Berry some years later at an airport in Munich. He was flying out and I was flying in, and I went, Chuck Berry! And I went over and talked to him for a minute. I met Yoko Ono. Yes, I did meet Yoko Ono, but I mean, I've worked with lots of different kinds of people, but certainly not with John Lennon or the likes of a John Lennon. No, I haven't really met those types of persons, because my shows are a little bit different.
So going back to Revival '69, here's my last question for you. What do you hope that audiences come away with after they've seen Revival '69, the concert that rocked the world? What do you hope audiences come away with after seeing this documentary?
Well, they should come away realizing that Canada, really, Toronto in particular, a couple of really young guys had a whole lot of balls to put this show together and get it on out there. It was an amazing time. it's an authentic sort of telling the story of music in Canada, music in Toronto at the time, and that there were amazing artists who probably didn't realize that they were historically writing a big page in the music industry of Canada, of Toronto in particular. And John Brower certainly didn't realize what he was. I don't think he really realized what kind of show and what kind of impact that show was going to have on how music would develop in Canada, in Toronto in particular.
Were you surprised?
And I loved it. Ron Chapman has to get the kudos because he absolutely put this together beautifully, and it's an enjoyable telling the story of music as it was in '69, and it should get all the Golden Globes and all the other Geminis that are out there
and
for
accolades. Yes,
the accolades that are needed for this show. Yeah. And I thank you so much for talking to me today.
Oh, you're more than welcome. But I want to know, were you surprised to see yourself on the screen back in '69 in the documentary? The footage of you and your brother.
Yeah, and we were having a great time.
You were.
I was just, I was probably boogie woogieing back then, not realizing that it was going to come back to me eventually. I was shocked and amazed at how just wonderfully I was enjoying myself, because those sort of moments are so few and far between in today's world, that kind of, that letting go. I could see myself just being so carefree and so natural, so organic. It was wonderful. And I'm glad I was in it. I'm glad I'm in it. And I'm so pleased that I was able to bring my own perspective to this program, this wonderful movie, this documentary, that it's a different look from how it, the Vagabonds and the Hells Angels and just giving it a different feeling as an audience member, I think was marvelous. I enjoyed seeing it.
I enjoyed seeing it as well. What I thought was really interesting, the Hells Angels were great, I thought. But the fact that you were there and there's footage of you and you went on to do what you did with your career and still doing to this day, amazing, incredible, well done. I have to say, Claudja Barry, thank you for your time. Thank you for being on the show. I truly love it, Mark. Thank you for having me. And I'm wishing you great success in 2023. And I'm hope somebody will invite me to Pride and have me be a part of one of the floats or something. It's something that I've done in the Village in New York, and I'm hoping I get to do it in Toronto, my adopted hometown. And well
thanks
said.
again.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
I wanted the Beatles thing to end. I felt as though I couldn't breathe if it went on any longer. We got this phone call that there was a rock and roll revival show, and that Chuck was going to be there, and Jerry Lee was going to be there, and up the great rockers who were still living. The Doors were top of the bill.
There were a lot of historic things happened that night.
The ninth wonder of the world, Alice Cooper!
A lot of tension going on.
The excitement was amazing.
This was far too much ahead of its time. The music was important. You could see they were digging it.
You watch the old guys, when they hit that stage, they brought it like it's the last show you're ever going to do.
The guys that originated everything, the heroes.
The week before the show, tickets were not selling. All of a sudden, the show's going to be canceled.
Is John Brower calling?
And we would like to invite John and Yoko to be the MCs.
Sounds not good, this Canadian thing.
If John Lennon doesn't show up, I am ruined.
Pulled up with our bikes up front of the airport. Big long line of bikes. We've escorted John Lennon in.
People were going crazy.
I had not experienced something like that before.
The combination of people on the stage is, without question, historic.
You can find Claudja Berry's music on your favorite streaming service, plus the documentary Revival 69, the concert that rocked the world, will hit Crave in April. And for even more on the documentary, simply visit photonfilms.ca.
It was almost a non-event until all of a sudden it was the biggest thing in the world.
Living desired the day we'll never have it desired.
Hi, this is Michael Anthony Alago, music executive, photographer, author, and you are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, Aidan Moreno.
We're into it now, so I can tell you.
Tell me what?
We've started seeing an expert in these matters. You see, Lou, I might have to take some time off.
Okay.
For paternity leave. We've decided to adopt a baby.
Rick. That's amazing.
Aidan Moreno, hi, how are you?
I'm really well. How are you?
I am better now that I am speaking to you. I have to say thank you so much for being here, to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that, especially to talk about Canada's longest running 1-hour family drama, CBC's Heartland. You play Rick Adler on Heartland.
Yeah.
Congrats on that. Talk to me about the character that you play on Heartland, Rick Adler. Talk to me about this character.
Well, he came in 3 seasons ago. He was only supposed to initially be in the show for a few episodes as some kind of comedic relief. And it just sort of took off. We had an instant connection, me and Michelle Morgan, who I have the majority of my scenes with. And the writers really saw that chemistry, and touch wood, it's still going strong. And most importantly, he was the first openly member of our community to be on the show. And so after 14 years, when I first came on, it was much needed to see that inclusion and representation for sure. So it was exciting.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about that. You are part of the LGBT community. You're playing Rick Adler, who is a queer individual. It's on the show.
Oh, he is.
What are your thoughts on playing a gay character on Heartland? Talk to me about that.
Well, I've been acting for a few years prior to this, and this was the first character I've actually been able to play a member of the community. Normally, I'm playing a heteronormative role and trying to fit into that. So it was being a reflection of myself in a way, and also having sort of that responsibility to our community. I know it sounds cliche, but we do, because even though there is more representation on our screens, when it is there, it is so important to do it right. So I did feel that added aspect to it. But then also I need to let that go and have fun with it. So I do camp it up. I do have some sarcasm and sass. But at the core, I'm also showing the humanity of the character, that he's got the same lived in experiences as everybody else. He loves, he hates, he cries, he laughs. And I'm hoping that gets across to the majority of the audience.
How much of you would you say is in Rick Adler?
This season, definitely more so. The first two seasons, 14 and 15, I would say they were more of a caricature of myself. So they were the heightened, sarcastic and sort of throwaway comments for the laughter. And I think as anyone as part of this community, we've all used laughter as a deflection in our lives to get away from the real issues. And in season 16, I'm so happy that the writers have given me the opportunity to go a bit deeper and show that vulnerability. And I think that was definitely more of them getting to know me as a person behind the character. So we've got this adoption storyline this year. We've got the introduction of my husband coming up in the finale episode. So it's definitely me behind Rick, pushing him forward, holding up that big gay rainbow flag.
Mm. So you're originally from the UK. You've been in Canada,
Yes,
I believe,
I am.
for over 10 years now.
Yes, I became a Canadian citizen, fully fledged last year.
Oh, well done. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to talk about the audition process that you went through for Heartland, because my understanding is you were dealing with your own little private Idaho in your personal life. You were going through some issues. I believe you were going through a divorce, and you ended up channeling that anger, that frustration, that being human,
right?
And you channeled that energy into landing this role on Heartland. Talk to me about the audition process and what you were going through personally, and how that all worked out. Thank the Lord.
Yeah, it was definitely a whirlwind moment in my life. And thank the Lord above, the old Heartland came along at the right time. But it was the beginning of the pandemic. I was definitely at the latter ends of tying up my divorce after a decade-year-long marriage, which I think all of us never want to happen, and we never foresee happening when we get married. So I felt like I was out on an island on my own at that moment in a lockdown. And I got this audition through from my agent, and we were obviously not being able to go into a casting room and see the casting directors. It was done in my basement all alone. I had to get all of the lighting, the camera, everything. And for once in my life, I looked at an audition, and instead of trying to be something else, I think that divorce, that moment in my life, had made me realize to embrace who I was, the strengths of my character, and to realize that I am worthy of love, despite what others may tell you. And so I think that's what I poured into Rick, and I think that's what they saw. So for the first time, I was unafraid of expectations and just did me. And they luckily, because sometimes people don't love you, but they seem to love me. And so, yes, I booked Heartland in my basement, which isn't very Hollywood, but hey, I'm here to keep it real.
Hey. So, Aidan, you've appeared on TV shows like CW's Supernatural, Craves,
Yes.
Jan, Murdoch Mysteries.
Love Jan.
Who doesn't love Jan?
She's
hilarious.
A powerhouse. I call her Canadian royalty. She's phenomenal.
You're also a singer, and in 2021 you released your debut album, My Kind of Trouble. So here's the question. Did you know at an early age that you wanted to get into the performing arts? Did you always know this about yourself, that you wanted to be on stage in front of the lights and the cameras and all that sort of stuff?
I would definitely say I never assumed I was destined for this kind of work. I definitely fell into this in the latter stages of my life. But I think anyone part of the queer community, we definitely tend to head towards the divas. We love music. We definitely get engrossed in television and film and pop culture as some form of escapism. So I definitely was a teenager sitting in my bedroom listening to the Spice Girls growing up, and thinking I was Victoria Beckham. Lo and behold, my brother didn't like that when he walked in. But definitely, I always found singing an outlet for me to just be me with no judgment. But no, I wasn't till, again, the lockdown, when we had all that time to ourselves, that I just thought, you know, I've got the time and I've also got the resources after working on the show for like a year. I actually had the resources to follow one of my passions. And I thought, again, zero expectation, let's give it a go. And the fans really, really liked it. So again, thankfully, it worked out.
What, over 500,000 streams?
I mean, they definitely love the Heartland track. I'm not gonna, I mean, hey, you've got to take what you can get. And definitely the Heartland fans know what they love. And they definitely honed into that track more specifically. But yeah, 500,000 streams of that first album was overwhelming. And it also helped me pay it all back. So it's fantastic all around.
Musically, how would you describe your sound?
I would say it's classic 90s sort of pop with a little bit of a Western twang. I do love a 90s bridge. As I say, Spice Girls, any UK pop. I was big into that, but I also loved my R&B. Anything. And of course, another queen of Canada, Shania Twain. So I love that sort of vibe as well. So I try to literally stick all of my influences in. And it's kind of a mishmash, but that's sort of like me. So I think it's a true reflection of me, and the fans seem to like it.
Singing, acting, singing. Where do you feel most comfortable? Doing what?
I definitely feel more comfortable acting, because you have that safety net of living through somebody else's words, living through somebody else's vision, i.e. the director or the show's writers. You can always have that safety net. And I think that's probably the insecurity as an actor, that you can sort of go into different people, into different heightened versions of yourself. Like I said with Rick, he is definitely a camper, sarkier version of me. Maybe one day that will be me, or maybe that will be too much for people to tolerate. I don't know. But then music also helped me tap into the vulnerabilities of just putting yourself out there with not so much judgment and expectation on yourself. And it's sort of freeing and liberating, not concentrating so much on the numbers, and just doing what we love, which is creating and living in the arts. So I'm just so happy. I'm grateful that I get to do both, because I don't want to pick.
So the season finale for Heartland, I believe, is on Sunday, February 5th. Is there anything you can share about the season finale of season 16 of Heartland?
It's definitely been a roller coaster this season. But as I say, the last episode that just aired, I'm flying off with my husband to adopt our baby. So in the season 16, I'm getting so confused with how many seasons we're on now. Season 16 finale, we get to meet my little baby girl. So that's going to be exciting. And for the first time, we are going to meet in person Rick's actual husband, because he's always been alluded to, always been referred to, but he's never made the dinner parties. So he finally comes out of his cave, and we're going to meet my hubby, for better or worse. So make sure everyone tunes in on February the 5th at 7 p.m. or on CBC Gem. It also streams for free.
Yeah, well done. I have to say, well said, well done, well made.
Thank you.
Well recorded.
Thank you.
Aidan Moreno, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Thank you.
He does not look happy. What's wrong, Rick? Your mother is shutting me out of this event entirely. Seems like she's lost confidence in me. She's been taking over meetings, giving me ridiculous tasks at the office.
Well, we told her how amazing you were when she was away looking after Georgie.
Could we have made him sound too amazing? Maybe Lou's jealous.
I don't think she loved you being on the front page of the paper.
Clearly, I need to remind her that what's important to her is important to me. Katie, darling, I need your key to Maggie's.
You can find Aidan Moreno's music on your favorite streaming service. Plus, Heartland's season 16 finale is on Sunday, February 5th on CBC.
Hi, I'm Agnes. My new record, Magic Still Exists, is out now. You are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Phone rings. I got a message from the mayor. He's going to call me back the next day. I get the call, and he said, if you'd accept, we'd like to honor you with the key to the city. There was an event later that year in May. Just a key, right? Like, key to what? A decent job, a good singing career. It's really a metaphor, but it's history. So a reporter wants to talk to me and says, so it's a key, right? Like, what's the big deal? He says, well, not everybody gets the key. So I looked it up, and I guess it is kind of a big deal.
The date, May 17th, 2018, when trans activist Susan Gapka made history by becoming the first trans woman to be presented with the key to the city of Toronto. By the way, past recipients include Rush and the Raptors. And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.com, where everything is connected, and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, check out my socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms, including audible.com and iHeartRadio. And finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, we are living in days of making dreams come true, so believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, this is Police Constable Danielle Botno, also known as LGBT Cop, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.